Carbs are not the enemy. Ever wonder why diets like keto, South Beach, and carnivore all promote low carb? In this video, we're going to dive into the facts and discover the truth about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates get a really bad rap. They're the first food people want to give up when they're trying to lose weight. But are they really all they claim, or do they leave you feeling drained, unsatisfied, and ready to move on to the next fad? Carbohydrates seem to get villainized, and if you're curious why, let's start with explaining what carbohydrates are and dig in to find if there's any truth to these fad diets or if it's just a myth. Carbohydrates are a macronutrient classified by their type. They're broken into two broad categories: complex and simple. Complex carbohydrates are made up of fibers and starches, while simple carbohydrates are sugars. Simple carbohydrates are the easiest and quickest to digest. Examples of these would be sugar, candy, soda, fruit juice, honey, and dairy products. Fibers are a complex carbohydrate that is non-digestible. Fiber is shown to have many health benefits, including reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes, risk of cardiovascular disease, and colorectal cancer, along with benefits for weight loss. Examples of fiber foods include fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Starches are complex carbs. Starches take longer to digest than sugars. However, the more refined it is, the quicker it is to digest. Think white flour versus wheat flour. Examples of starches include rice, potatoes, squash, sweet potatoes, peas, and corn. That's the broad view of carbohydrates, and keep in mind that most foods contain multiple types of carbohydrates. Now that we know what carbohydrates are, let's dig into why they're the first enemy to be removed from the diet and why people see some success with a low-carb diet. Carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of fuel. When we eat carbohydrates, our body then converts it into glucose, a major source of energy for our cells. When we eat carbs, what we don't use gets stored in our liver for later use. When carbohydrates are stored in our liver, they're also stored with water. So for every 1 gram of carbohydrate that we store, 2.7 grams of water are stored with it. Here's what happens when you cut those carbs out. Your body needs fuel, aka glucose. So it will use up the glucose in your bloodstream, then move on to the stored glucose in your liver and muscles for fuel. When this happens, that extra water that was stored with the carbs in your liver and muscles is released as well. And then guess what? You pee all that water out. The biggest impact happens in the first 2 weeks of these diets. So to your friend who says they lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks on keto, sorry, but it was mostly water weight. Ever tried to lift a gallon jug of water? It's heavy, isn't it? So just think about how much water you're peeing out over the course of restricting or no carb diets in the first 2 weeks. Also, when people go on these low carb or no carb diets, they may unintentionally restrict their calories, which aids to some of the weight loss. So is it really worth restricting, or are there better choices about the carbs we choose to consume? It's carb quality that makes all the difference. Certain types of carbohydrates are better than others. The best sources are those that are minimally or unprocessed and include whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Those are the ones that are going to give us the most nutrition. They are packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber, phytonutrients, all kinds of great things for us. Let's do a quick comparison, comparing 1 serving of Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal to 1 serving of oatmeal. For Cinnamon Toast Crunch, 1 serving is 1 cup per the nutrition label, which gives us 170 calories, 230 milligrams of sodium, 33 grams of carbs, 3 grams of fiber, 12 grams of sugar, and 2 grams of protein. Now let's compare that to oatmeal. Half a cup is a serving of old-fashioned oats, and let's add in a 1/4 cup of blueberries and a teaspoon of maple syrup for a little extra sweetness. That gives us 180 calories, 11 milligrams of sodium, 35 grams of carbs, 4 grams of fiber, just 7 grams of sugar, and 5 grams of protein. Now let's look at the ingredients. For Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which it's a childhood favorite, but it's loaded with sugar. The first ingredient is whole grain wheat, and then we have sugar, rice flour, some oil, then more sugar. Fructose is a sugar, maltodextrin is a sugar, and dextrose. Then they add stabilizers for freshness, and they fortify the cereal with vitamins and minerals. and compare it to our oatmeal, ingredients are just oats, water, blueberries, and maple syrup. To further our comparison of quality carbohydrates to lower quality carbohydrates, let's go to the research. There was a research study done to analyze the effect of oatmeal on appetite and satiety compared to breakfast cereals. And the results are pretty interesting. The participants who had oatmeal, which is higher in fiber and protein but lower in sugar than the cereals, showed a greater increase in their fullness. Oatmeal was shown to improve appetite control and increase satiety in the participants. I can't talk about carb quality without talking about ultra-processed foods and how they affect our health. Now, in grocery stores today, many of the foods are processed in some way or another. But what I'm talking about are the ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods are the ones where you cannot determine the ingredients in them just by looking at the product. I'm talking about sodas, chips, cookies, anything prepackaged in that kind of realm. The results from a recent study showed that a 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed food in the diet was associated with significantly higher rates of overall cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, and cerebrovascular disease. Now that I've probably bummed you out about ultra-processed foods, let's dive into the benefits of carbs, complex carbohydrates, and their fiber content. Many of the ultra-processed foods don't contain fiber, or the fiber is stripped down in all of the processing, and then companies will add it back in with some psyllium husk or some chicory root or some inulin, and that fiber that's added in is not the same as getting it from whole grains and whole foods. Of course, that fiber is not necessarily a bad thing, but our gut microbiome loves diversity, and the diversity we get is from a wide range of carbohydrates to include all those things I keep talking about: whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans. So we need more gut diversity than what is offered in these ultra-processed foods. And a last note on fiber. Higher fiber intake was associated with a reduction in overall mortality risk. And if that's not a reason to include complex carbohydrates, I don't know what is. The bottom line, carbohydrates are not the enemy. It's the type of carbohydrates that make all the difference. Quality whole food carbohydrate sources are nutrient dense and shown to be really beneficial for our health, while ultra-processed foods are the ones you want to really try to reduce as much as possible. I'm not suggesting that you cut out all your favorite snacks, because we all need to eat things that make us happy. I am here to say that learning to make good carbohydrate decisions, like the ones we've discussed in this video, has many health benefits, and we should be striving to take advantage of those benefits and getting all those nutrients versus trying to cut carbohydrates out all for the sake of a short-term weight loss. Weight loss can be beneficial in certain situations, and you can include carbohydrates like the ones we've talked about in this video and also keep your quality of life. If you're curious how certain carb-rich foods can help you sleep better at night, check out my 7 Foods for Better Sleep video right here. In the case of carbohydrates, this myth is definitely busted. Forget the low-carb, no-carb diets. I'm talking about keto, Atkins, South Beach, paleo, carnivore. The list goes on. I always ask my clients who ask about these diets or have tried these diets, is this the way you want to eat for the rest of your life? Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helped bust the myth on carbohydrates, and now you know that they are not the villain that they're made out to be. If you like this video, hit the like button below and subscribe so you can follow along for more nutrition myths being busted like this one, nutrition tips, and recipes. I will see you in the next video. And until then, eat well, be well, thrive.